What's up guys, welcome back to Mike It Yourself. And for this week's video, we're gonna add some more LEDs to the 2017 Road Glide because, well, let me tell you about it. All right guys, so if you've been watching the videos, you know at one point I used to have the reflector LEDs there, and I actually had really liked them a lot. I thought they did a great job of lighting things up, but unfortunately the individual LEDs started to fail on me, and I took them off and was kind of just on the fence about putting something else to replace them. So I ended up with just some smoke lens reflectors. Now, the other night I was driving in my truck and it was pretty dark, and I happened to be going down a road that was not very well lit. And in the process of going down this road, there was another guy on a bike who was actually making a right-hand turn, to get onto the same street that I was. And I noticed that I could almost not see this guy completely because he had zero lighting on the side of his bike. It was a black bike. Of course, he's wearing, black gear. So it was almost impossible to see him. And it just kind of, again, reminded me about how important safety is. And if given the opportunity to provide yourself a little bit more visibility, then you want to take that opportunity to prevent yourself from, potentially being hit by somebody who didn't see you there just because of a lack of lighting. So how are we going to address this? Well, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I didn't want to go with the same reflector style. Instead, what we're going to do is we're going to install these under saddlebag LEDs. So these ones actually go, and actually I got the wrong side there, but essentially they're going to go up under here, and that'll provide lighting to the side. These do run, they're running, brake, and turn signal. So we're going to get all functions out of this from what I understand, hence why there are so many wires on this. So you got your ground, you got red, yellow, and white, right? So probably stop, run, and turn. In the kit, of course, you get both of the LEDs. You get another Y harness. Now, here's something that you're going to be challenged with, is as you add more LEDs to your bike, you end up with more and more of these Y connectors, and the wiring situation underneath your seat starts to become a little bit of a burden. So just as a heads up, we're going to be adding another Y connection there. Just means a little bit more of a mess. And I think I've got to do some research to figure out like what other guys have done to kind of help, I guess, not make it as messy, because that stuff just sits all on top of where your ECM is mounted. So it just looks a little sloppy. And the kit, they also give you some, these zip tie anchors. You get a couple of black zip ties. Looks like they give you about 6 of those. And the one thing I did not expect to have in this kit was instructions. Now, albeit there's a little bit left to be desired in the instructions, but they came with them. So we'll take a look at what these things say. The first thing we're going to need to do is make sure we clean the underside of our saddlebag really, really well. Now, the one thing I am a little concerned about, and we won't know until I start looking at the fitment, is how well they're going to attach to these caps. Because, again, if you've been watching my videos, these are the stock saddlebags, and I added in a 4-inch cap to the bottom of that to give it that lower look. And because of that, it's not the same flat, surface on the bottom. So let me get them cleaned up. We'll take a look at what that mounting surface is going to be like, and we'll take it from there. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to hit it with some glass cleaner. That'll help remove any kind of like debris or any wax that might be there that might make it a little harder to adhere to. So I'm going to give that a quick little wipe down. But I am going to also follow up with just straight up isopropyl rubbing alcohol, just to make sure that I've got the best surface or clean surface or whatever for sticking that red 3M style tape to. So once we get that on, go ahead and Hit that with that rubbing alcohol. That'll really make that surface perfect for that double-sided tape. Now, the awesome part of this is no tools required. I mean, the towel is probably the most, tool thing. I did take a look with these caps on, because these caps, they have like cutouts. The surface area is definitely different. If I roll this thing forward enough, what I'm looking for is the arch in the light and where it's going to sit most flush to the bike. And I am going to have to put a little bit of, got to find like a sweet spot here, because that arch is just not exact. I've got a little bit of a gap about right here. So I've got good contact on the back, good contact on the front, but terrible contact right in the center. So that is a little concerning to me. I want to make sure I get as much contact surface as possible. All right, so I wanted to show you what gap I'm looking at, and you could almost slide a nickel in that thing. That's how big that gap is. And I mean, I can try to rotate this, but it's not gonna stick well. The arch is just too far different. And I don't wanna put too much pressure on this to try to force it to work, because you might end up cracking the lens. So I'm gonna take off my cap and see what this thing looks like as far as lining up, to see if it'd be a significant difference or not. So we'll get that off real quick and take another look. All right, so I've got the cap removed from the saddlebag, and that cap has definitely done some rubbing on the bag itself. You might be able to buff some of this out, but putting this on, the gap is actually worse. So this has got a definite arch to it that the stock saddlebag does not have at all. Actually couldn't be any further from it. So I mean, if you look, you can kind of see how bad that gap is. That's probably about an inch or so. So I have a plan. Let me explain. All right, so the arch isn't too far off from this thing. So this is the cap when it's removed. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add, I've got my own 3M that I have on hand. I'm gonna add a little bit of that to this middle portion here to just make it a little bit thicker, and essentially this adhesive will connect with the other adhesive and fill in that gap just to make sure it sticks. I've got about, I'd say 2 inches or so in the front and about 1.5 inches on the back from the original tape that's sticking onto this. So it's really this little middle portion here that I'm most concerned about. So I'm gonna tag it with, a little white marker there, just so I can see what areas I need to apply it to. I'm gonna add this in. I'll bring you back to show you what it looks like before we apply the actual LED. All right, guys, so we've got the piece on here, and you can see I just put my own tape here on these 2 areas. And the goal is to marry those pieces up with the existing as we apply it onto the extension, or whatever the heck you want to call this thing. And actually, I put a little bit too much tape on this side, so I got to trim that down. That's why you... All right, not too worried about it because it's not going to be visible. It's on the bottom, but I didn't want to peel it if it's not necessary. So I'm going to line this up as best as I can, peel that tape, we'll put it on, and we'll take a look at it. All right, so got the cap installed back on, got the light in place. There's a little extra area I could have done better on the front, but ultimately it came out pretty good. Like I said, in those areas where there was going to be no surface contact, I did leave the backing on, so I just used an X-Acto blade to cut to make sure that that backing stayed on, because I mean, it won't hurt anything if you pull it all the way off. It just means you're going to collect dirt and grime and crap in there. So Just one less thing I didn't care for or whatever, but it's on there. It looks great so far. We'll have to see what it looks like on the bike. The question I do have is, you know, rocks and stuff like that. If this thing takes a hit, how bad is it going to be? But I guess, I mean, same thing could be said about the saddlebag. So now I just need to route the wire on the backside going upwards, which that's not going to be anything to ooh and ah about. Definitely need to wax these things. They've got some scratches on them that I need to get removed, but I'm going to go ahead and knock out the other side, and I'll show you how I route this wiring on the backside once I get that other one off or installed. Okay guys, so I just wanted to show you how I was routing my wires, because I almost goofed up pretty bad, and that I got excited. I was starting to kind of just run it straight across, but what I forgot is when you put these on the bike, you have your support bar, right? Which this is mimicking. It's going to go up underneath and into the channel where that rubber is. So you want to make sure you don't hop across that, because then that thing's going to be pushing up on it always and smashing your wires. And over time, you're going to get chafing, and that could break down the outer shield of your wiring and cause a short. So the way I'm working around it is I'm using the zip tie anchors. I'm going right up against this here of the cap, and then I'm going just around the outer side of that channel where the bar is going to go. I used another anchor there, and then came up to my existing anchor for the blade style turn signals to kind of just follow. So that should keep me out of the bad area. Now that does shorten your opportunity here, but I guess we'll see how much wire we have when we put that Y connection in, and we may have to finagle that a little bit, but essentially that's the routing I'm taking. So at this point, we're ready to put them on the bike. All right guys, so I've got the saddlebags on, and my wiring really just barely comes to where the side covers are. My other wires are much longer, but this is the mess that I'm talking about, where it's gonna just continue to grow. So I'm gonna throw in this Y connector. You've got plenty of space. I will need to test which one's left, which one's right. And then really the real view will be once we get them in the dark. So just taking a look really quick. I mean, you really don't even notice they're there unless you really pay attention, which is cool, right? It's nice to have it kind of concealed, and then it just helps light up. As you know, we did the side markers on the King Tourer pack, but they don't flash. They just stay in a running state. They don't even do a break on those ones. They're lit up. So just a little extra help, especially with the turn signal and the braking, just brings a little bit more attention. So let me get that wire hooked up, and I'll bring you back once it gets a little dark out here. All right guys, so there you go. They're on. It's nice and dark right now, so you can get a good shot of them. If you hit your brake light, they come on. Now when you release, it shuts off momentarily and then comes back on. Turn signal. And then of course, if you do your emergencies, hazard light also does its thing. So it's nice. You get a great deal of light. Great deal of light. If you're looking from the side, people definitely see you. All right guys, so there you have it. Looks really, really nice at night. Lights things up very, very well on the back. I'll put a link to these ones in the description, or I may pin it on the comment, but they look great. Of course, as always, time will tell. So we got to throw some time on these. We'll see how those LEDs perform. Because they are the individual LEDs, they have the opportunity for, you know, some to go bad. But so far, I've been kind of lucking out with this style, with the exception of those reflector ones that I had. So we'll see. We'll see how it holds up. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit the thumbs up. If you enjoy my content, I would love to have you as a member of our community. Become a subscriber, and until my next video does post, I hope to see you in the win.